fell in love with the company. Really aligned with our values and kind of the direction we're going to use kind of technology for good, and being able to empower every person, organization on the plant to achieve more. So it was a really fun time. Pivoted into sales as I learned more about what Microsoft does. So you're either, you work at a large tech company. A lot of times you're either building the product or you're selling the product. So I wanted to get a little bit of exposure to the sales side to actually see how this revenue engine called Microsoft operates. So, due to some help from a couple other academy grads that I know who were at Microsoft, learned more about sales, got connected to some leaders, and I was able to interview and land a role as a sales account executive. And I've been here in Dallas for about 6 years, and I really enjoyed my time during the transition.
Well, it's great to hear about your service in the Army and your career transition and being able to join one of the technology leaders in the world, Microsoft. We all use your products every day. Every time we turn on a laptop, we're using a Microsoft product.
That's good. We'll have to get a Teams meeting next time. I'm just joking.
Okay, well, we'll work on that. Well, we're glad to have everybody here. And I just, having the opportunity to talk with Herman Bowles, Sr., who has had a remarkable career. Herman, if you would just tell us a little bit about your career path. You were able to get to West Point, you played some football, and then you went on a remarkable journey in your life. Maybe you could tell us about some of the steps along your career path.
Sure. Well, probably what's a little different is after my football career ended, I went to Ranger School after yearling year as a cadet. And that was a great experience. And I say to this day, it's probably the hardest thing from a combination of physically, mentally, emotionally that you've done. And from that, I learned one thing. And I think Sam will agree with me here. Your limits are further than you think they are. And that's what Ranger School teaches you. And that's been something that I rely on if I'm ever having a rough day. I think about, I could be in Ranger School. And after graduation, served 5 years in the Army, starting at Fort Dix, New Jersey, where I met my beautiful bride, Iris, which many of you know, and she has her pictures.
Wonderful lady.
All the time. And unfortunately, Ken and I joined a club that no one would ever want to join. Iris, phenomenal lady. She and I got married. We went to Korea. So first of all, it's important to know I worked in project outreach at West Point as a lieutenant. So I did recruiting for about 10 months. Came back from that. Iris and I were married. We went to Korea, spent 2 years there. Our oldest son, Herman Jr., although made in Korea, was born in the United States at Fort Harrison, Indiana. And we didn't know at the time, but he preceded Jonathan, and he was class of 2005. And in the similarities, Herman finished 20 years. He just retired this past May. And he also went to Duke for his MBA and went back to admissions. So his mom, myself, and Herman all served in admissions. And then Herman finished again, a phenomenal soldier, infantry, 3 combat tours, probably a total of 34, 35 months in combat. We're just so proud of him as an individual. He's married. He has 3 kids, Connor, Quinn, and Kennedy, and they live out in Chicago, where his last assignment, he was putting his MBA to work. He was working in the Army Enterprise Marketing Office. And guess where he works after finishing his career? At Microsoft, at the same job that Jonathan has. And I tell you what, Jonathan probably hasn't heard me say this. I'll get back to my career. But I've been so impressed with the way these 2 siblings, all of a sudden there's a little bit of a change. The younger brother did it a little earlier, and it's helping the big brother transition. And we all know, for all of us that were in the military, you want to do everything right and you want it to be right. And Jonathan's really helping to calm him down and say, it's not going to happen right away, even though he did make his first sell this week, I think I understand. So he's doing great from there. So anyway, so Iris and I went to Korea. We came back. We were both fortunate to have very strong military records, and the Army sent us to graduate school. Iris was at Tufts. I went to Harvard Business School. We both came back to West Point. I taught in the Soch department, go Soch. taught finance and economics. Iris was an admissions officer. We stayed there and then came to Washington, D.C., where I served in the Pentagon, in the Office of Assistant Secretary for Financial Management. And this was a time, believe it or not, Sam, I don't know if you remember this. This is when they were actually downsizing the Army because they wanted everybody out. So I actually left the Army, both my wife and I did. And Iris went on to go into civilian government. In her career, real quickly, she shot up and became a government executive with her ultimate assignment, where she was the principal deputy secretary of the Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs. So she ran the Army's personnel system inside the building every day for 3 years under the Clinton administration. So that was fantastic. I went out and, like Jonathan, using my MBA skills, I went with Jones Lang. It was LaSalle Partners at the time. Now it's Jones Lang LaSalle, JLL, and had a terrific career. And one of the things I'm trying to tell Herman, the skills that you learn in the Army, and Jonathan mentioned one of them, empathy, but also the ability to set standards, also the ability to be committed to a purpose and mission first, people always. Those things are learned, and I have been very, very fortunate in my career. Made managing director in like 3.5, 4 years. Now I'm vice chairman of the Americas for JLL. And in addition to that, Ken, I've had the opportunity to serve on probably 5 or 6 public company boards. And I just finished in August 15 years at USAA, where the last 5 years I was vice chair of the board there. So that, and my most important title right now, though, is GDAD.
Yeah.
Junior has
I'm sure.
3 kids, and Jonathan is learning about parenthood as he has a 16, 17-month-old and a 3, 4-month-old. So the five grandkids, 3 boys and 2 granddaughters, and we're making the most of life as we can. Unfortunately, without Iris right now, but we think about her very, very often, and she's still the cornerstone and the guiding rock as we think about her for the success. So we just feel so fortunate. And what I want to say now is, you think about that, how important West Point has been in our lives. The fact that we had the opportunity to get our graduate degrees. I obviously graduated from there. Iris and I were married at West Point. We both served at West Point, and I think most of your listeners may know that for the last few years, I'm now currently vice chair of the AOG. We're there, and we obviously live there. Jonathan and his brother Nathaniel were both born at West Point. I retired at West Point, and God bless her soul, Iris is her final resting place is at West Point as well. So West Point is part of our family, and one of the things we're really proud of, we've been successful somewhat, and we actually endowed the Diversity and Inclusion Conference at West Point, which has been, I'm going to say, temporarily suspended, but that was something that was very, very important to Iris. In addition to that, we've endowed a couple of things. We endowed visitation program in the admissions office, and Iris's love and what she did in the Army was foreign languages. We also endowed to send cadets overseas in a foreign language. So West Point's just been very, very important to us.
Well, it's great to hear Iris's story. I learned a couple of things. I didn't realize she ran all of human resources for the Army in her career, among her many accomplishments. What a gracious lady. I sort of remember being with you at the DEI conference. It was, just after Labor Day, 4, 5, 6 years ago, and being with you and Iris. And then you did something very nice. You introduced me to General Vince Brooks, who was a speaker that night. And what a thrill that was. I saw General Brooks down at a AUSA meeting this spring down in Washington, and we're reminiscing about that.
Great American.
Hey, just before I open it up to our group to ask you a couple of questions, I just want to ask you, there's so many crazy things going on in college athletics. West Point, I think the service academies are a little bit of a bastion with not having a portal and not having NIL. The college football playoffs is up for another change. What do you think, Herman, when you see what's happening in college football? If you were called in to advise the NCAA, maybe you already have, is what would you say about how to stabilize and create a future where education remains paramount?
Well, I haven't been asked, and if I were, this is what I would tell them. In the sense that the players are having the opportunity to benefit from the great product that they're putting on the field. I can't argue with that because I'm a pure capitalist. However, I can have a comment to say how and when they get the funds. Okay. If we really want to make this work and make it an educational process, it is okay for them to get the money. I would tie the receipt of the money to education fulfillment. Okay. And how would we do that? Number one, they would get enough money. If they want to buy the car, they could certainly buy the car. Okay. However, to have, and obviously everybody's not getting $2 or $3 million, but some of these kids are getting vast sums of money. And let's face it, they generally may sometimes come from backgrounds where there's more of a problem or a challenge in terms of how do you manage a windfall that you get like that. And we can even look later in the pros. And I have several friends that are in the pros that I've spoken to about this, who include the bus Jerome Bettis and Lynn Swan, and had personal conversations with these guys. And what happens after their 3.2-year pro career is some of them do great, many of them do not do great. And if we're really concerned about this, the whole idea of tying it somehow to getting them to come back to school, getting them even to think about education programs, doing more of a mentoring program, for example. And both Jonathan and I, Army football players, really any cadet, but definitely Army football players, when they call us, they see our careers and they say, hey, I want to do that. Well, guess what? I saw someone when I was a cadet and I wanted to do that. And to whom much is given, much is expected. And I think Jonathan spoke to a cadet a couple of days ago. So we take that effort to do this. And it shouldn't only be at West Point that this happens. So I would somehow tie it to education achievement. And to the extent that the kid did not finish school, they would have an incentive to go back to school because there would be a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Absolutely. Let's open up. If our huddle crew have questions for Herman or for Jonathan. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Sam.
Herman, thank you for sharing all of that. I just continue to be amazed at the accomplishments of yourself and your family. They like to say that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. And when it comes to the long gray line, you and your wonderful family certainly represent one of the strongest links in that chain that makes up the long gray line. So thank you. I just wanted to say that. And when we've talked in the past, you have been just one of the most gracious and selfless people to be around, and I appreciate that. I did want to ask a kind of a follow-up to your comment about NIL and West Point, because I think you just explained a perspective on NIL that never even crossed my mind ever. And I've always been against the NIL, but now I see I might have been just sold on NIL at West Point and the other academies. I guess my question to you would be, do you think that NIL money, as it applies to Core Squad athletics, if it could be organized and implemented, do you think that it should also be tied into service obligation upon graduation?
So you're asking, Sam, specifically for academy athletes?
Yes, specifically.
Most definitely. We were beneficiaries, and of course, some people say we paid for that education a nickel at a time. However, we're beneficiary of something that our nation did for us as taxpayers, and we should have the ability. Now, I also feel that kids who are good enough should have the opportunity to go pro, okay? Because I think they add so much because let's face it, young kids out there, they see it, they want to do it. We all know what the statistics are, right? It's just not going to happen that often. And I think as an economist, the benefit of having Jonathan, your classmate that you played with, help me remember his name.
Villanueva.
Yeah,
And, and
having a guy like that who goes, I think there were more kids looking at West Point that were of high caliber that decided to come that may not have otherwise come. And of course, he did his job as a ambassador for the military and did a great job of it. So Sam, I still think if that were to happen, that it still ties to their military service. I don't think you should be able to buy yourself out of that.
Excellent. Well, you've got me sold now. So we're on the same, definitely on the same sheet of music in that. And I have a question for Jonathan, since he's had time to sit there and absorb being a part of our huddle tonight. First off, wanted to compliment you, Jonathan, and you explaining your career thus far. I was looking at the wall behind you, and I could not help but notice that your wall behind you actually represents a very large macrocosm of your career. You've got your academy, your West Point diploma, you have your football jersey, and you have your artillery guidon. So well done. I wanted to ask you, I believe you, since you were class of 2011, if I am not mistaken, your football team played in the Armed Forces Bowl in 2010. I could be off a year, but I believe that is correct. That being said, and won, by the way, Army is undefeated in Armed Forces Bowls. And I'm not saying that Army becomes bowl eligible. That's definitely the bowl they're going to. I kind of hope that they are. But for this year's team, from your perspective, given the fact that they are one game away from being bowl eligible, given the way the season started, how would you assess what that meant to you when you were invited to the Armed Forces Bowl as a player, and what it meant for the team as a whole to be able to not only have that honor, but to be able to go onto that field of friendly strife there in Fort Worth and deliver a victory?
Yeah, no, that was a very memorable experience. Definitely the highlight of my 4 years playing football. As you probably know, we had some more challenging years. My first 2 years, I believe we went 3-9 both of those years, and then lost the Navy and Air Force. So just pretty rough times. And then, we had a coaching change, and Coach Ellerson came to be our head coach. And, he did a lot of work to kind of change the culture and how we show up kind of to work, which is, at Mikey Stadium. You dedicate so much time to football while you're at, really at any school, but definitely, at West Point, while you're trying to balance your time between being a cadet and an athlete. And at times, being on the football team at West Point takes up over 24 hours of your week, literally a full day of your time every single week. You're pretty much hibernating at the football stadium, traveling to games, practice, workouts. So it's a sacrifice that you have to take to be a part of a team like that, sacrificing all the weekends and any opportunities to go out and do stuff. You really dedicate that time with your team. So after a tough junior year, we got to 5 wins that year. We could have beat Navy to get bowl eligible. Unfortunately, we did not. So we felt so close that junior year, and we knew we had to do it the following year because our class went through a lot with the coaching change and everything. We were recruited under Bobby Ross. We played under Stan Brock, and then finished with Coach Ellerson. So it was definitely just a lot of back and forth, it felt like. So when we got that final win, that 6th win, our senior year, we knew we were going to do it. We literally had confidence that we were going to be bowl eligible, and it was a wonderful experience. I believe we were actually at Kent State in Ohio. And we had a good game. We won, and we remember getting to the locker room and just celebrating and just hugging each other and kind of just being proud that we had helped turn the Army football program around. Let's take a step in the right direction, because we hadn't been in a bowl game, in I think it was 20 years? I think we hadn't been in bowl games since
1996. Prior to that, against
1996.
Auburn.
Yeah. So it was a long time, and we knew that was hovering over our heads. So when we got to that bowl game, we were just very proud to be there. And again, we didn't want to just be there. We wanted to win that too. We wanted to go off on a positive note, because every year previously we ended our seasons losing to Navy. That's just the most bitter taste you can have for your career. If that's your final game, you don't have a bowl game opportunity. So after coming off of a really, really tough loss to Navy, I still remember that game. The play that sticks out the most, I know we had a fumble at like the 1 or 2 yard line, and it was returned back by Navy right before halftime. It was a 14-point swing, and I think we lost, somewhere between like maybe 7 points or something like that. Just a huge play, and that just felt so heartbreaking. So again, we knew we just want to go on a positive note. So to represent West Point, go to Armed Forces Bowl here in Fort Worth, and how fitting is it that I'm kind of back here now. Actually, I'm sorry, at SMU. We actually played at SMU Stadium. It was supposed to be TCU, but
I was at that game.
TCU's literally that stadium is 10 minutes from my house now. So whenever I drive by it, I always think about, I remember my last punt there. I remember celebrating with our team. So it's just a really rewarding feeling, and just a proud feeling to know that we kind of at that time helped kind of turn the program around after a lot of efforts to do so, and just wouldn't trade that feeling for anything.
Well, Sam, I'm going to have a proud dad moment here, because that game, by the way, Iris, when Jonathan would punt, she many times didn't want to look, okay, because mom pressure on her, so to speak. And as you guys may remember, Jonathan did rugby kicks the majority of the time. And if you remember that game,
I remember that.
We held, we were ahead, I think 17-13. And no, a field goal couldn't get for them. That's right.
16-14, yeah.
16-14. And we stopped on defense. We got the ball 1st and 10 on like the 14-yard line. And we only, 3 plays, we wouldn't throw it. We ran it in about 1:30 to go. And for whatever reason, Coach Ellerson let Jonathan bump it. So he punted from the end zone.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know. The statistics are out there. It had to be at least a 50-yard punt or 50.
It was like 59.
50. No, it's
a bomb.
But it straight up in the air, and I guess his adrenaline was going, and his gunner got down there for no return, and so they were on their 40-yard line or something, and we were able to hold so that they could not get in field goal range. So that was Jonathan's last official play as an Army football player, and it could have been the most heartbreaking thing of all if they had come back and hit that field goal.
Yeah.
Curtis reminded it was
exactly.
a lead. So that was,
I think they did get in field goal range, but they were so far out. I mean, I think it was like a 56-yarder, which is not as common for college kickers.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah,
I was at the game. I honestly didn't realize until now that you were punting. Well, I knew prior, but I know you were a tremendous punter at West Point. But thank you for that punt. I was cheering so loud. That was amazing.
It was definitely a bright spot in the midst of the dark days of Army football for all of us. I remember being home on leave from Iraq when that game was played, and I got to watch it with my dad, and it was just really a great victory for the Army team. I just had one more question for you guys, and then I would let Curtis ask a couple of questions if he has some. But just in the past week, both Army and today, the Squids, they came out with their uniforms for the Army-Navy game. And we know this has been a real competitive tradition that's been going on. There's the game, but then there's also the jersey drop. And Stephanie, I think you've got that photo of the side-by-side of the jerseys. If you
Navy's is awful.
if you could pop that up there real quick. Of course, we know that Army's uniform is very it's white. It's all white with silver helmet, and it celebrates the 250th anniversary, 250 years of the nation's oldest armed service, which is the United States Army from 1775. It also has some subtle hints to recognize the old guard as well as the Great Chain that we all celebrate and know was part of the West Point fortifications. And the white is not pure white. It is designed to resemble the marble of the headstones that you would find on a official military headstone. So it has that marble blend to it. Meanwhile, Navy's uniform, I made a prediction about a week ago about Navy being kind of an all-encompassing thing. And the very first thing I said was it's been 250 years in the making. And I was joking about it, but I said that it would have something to do with Marines and astronauts, and then doing things so long as they didn't have to give up the ship. And lo and behold, the uniforms, the Navy Athletics first comment on the unveil was 250 years in the making. So I just couldn't help but laugh that, yeah, see, I told you guys. Anyway, it's a uniform that's supposed to represent the USS Constitution, of course, the 250th birthday of the Navy, but also the USS Constitution, which is the oldest commissioned ship in the Navy for those who are watching and don't know. It's also the only ship in the Navy that has actually engaged and sunk enemy ships in combat. But it seems to me, and this is just my opinion, I'm going to ask you guys both your opinions about both uniforms and tell me who you think won the uniform contest this year. In my opinion, it just seems to me Navy's trying to represent too much of an inanimate object, whereas the Army is once again representing an organization, this time the United States Army as a whole in our 250 years of existence. So, Stephanie, were you able to pull up that side by side? It's okay if not, but Herman, Jonathan,
Hold
either
on,
one.
I'm pulling it up.
Okay.
I really like, Sam, I really like the chain logo.
Yeah, I
I
love
agree.
it. I love
I think
it.
that's a really neat part of the uniform.
I could be a tattoo idea. I'm just saying. But anyway,
I'm
Well,
also adding in the chat just an explanation of Navy's uniforms, just in case anyone's interested.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Herman, I'll just hand it to you first, and we'll hear from Jonathan. I mean, what do you think about the uniforms and I just
I'm probably like most people on the huddle right now. I'm a little biased. And and I think all of us know that this process of putting these uniforms it's like a year, almost a 2-year process. So they already have the outline for what next year's is going to be, and that obviously the reveal is the big thing. But I really like the fact of the armies, and I think somebody said something earlier today I saw online is that Navy dedicated theirs to an inanimate object, okay? And they use machines to do what they do. In the Army, what do? We do things with people. So we represent units, which is made of humans. And I would say that that's probably the biggest message in terms of how we focus on mission first and people always. And that's something I think the Army does very, very well.
Yeah, very well said. Jonathan, how about you?
Yeah, so I'll be blunt. I don't think it's a contest. Army by a million. Our uniforms are way better. So much more history and the connection, and just how again you talk about that chain. I hope people understand that subtle kind of difference in the uniform compared to previous ones is what that symbolizes at West Point. And if you've been there, seeing the chains actually there that help guard the Hudson. love the colors. I mean, whenever we're the kind of, away team and we wear white or a lighter color, I think it always looks good, even when we wear dark colors. But the all white, it's not as good as the 10th Mountain ones. I'll give it that. That was our first kind of all white uniform. And of course, the snow during that game and
Yeah, it did.
missed field goal by Navy last second and the pressure. I mean, it couldn't have been a more epic, representing 10th Mountain, playing in the snow at Army Navy. I mean, you couldn't have planned it better. But yeah, Navy's, honestly, when I saw the reveal, I thought it was just one of their uniforms they've already worn. Honestly, I didn't really see a big difference. Blue on white and the helmet. Yeah, they Navy. I'll give them some props on some helmets. Sometimes they do some good paintings and designs on the helmet. So their helmet's pretty. That's probably the highlight, I'd say. Just the detail of their helmet.
Okay.
The rest of it, just to the eye, to the common viewer who will be watching in December, just look like a normal jersey like Navy wears at a home or away game, I think. But so nothing special, but I understand the symbolic representation of what they're doing. So with that, sure, that's definitely a pro. But just looking at them, it's not a contest.
Yeah,
Okay.
indeed. So, yeah, I hear you there for sure. But I don't want to keep Curtis from having the opportunity to ask a couple of questions himself. So I'll go ahead and hand it off to him. But I really do appreciate both of you all taking the time to join us tonight, because it's been extremely insightful. You two are fine Americans, and I'm very proud to share the long gray line with both of you.
Yeah, and also thanks for your non-biased opinions on the uniforms. But I agree with you guys. But I guess I have questions for you as a person that is so I grew up watching Army football. It's literally as both of you guys probably know and just see my posts, I'm an avid Army football fan. Everything, like, so much about my life. Oh, did someone just get a notification? Sorry, I wasn't sure if it was just me, but anyway, as a person who's an avid Army football fan, a lot of my life has been surrounded by it. I guess for you, Herman, being under Coach Homer Smith, I think he coached between 1974 and 1978, if I'm not mistaken. And you kind of see the buildup and the changes that have happened since then. What was it like for you as a football player, as a cadet, in terms of the timing that you had to spend practicing? I was even recently looking at the workout facilities that you guys had prior to the construction of the 2003 facilities that were installed near Mikey Stadium. I know you guys said, to my knowledge, you guys definitely had a workout facility. I could be wrong there, but I heard that. But is that not correct?
Sam and your dad were both in our workout facilities, because, believe it or not, the football dressing room was in Arvin Gym.
Yep.
The locker rooms were there. The weight room was upstairs, the one and the cadets corps could not use it during the hours that the football team was there. We were the first class during my freshman year that Nautilus came out, and we were sort of a test place for Nautilus. So that was there. Our football practices, we actually used to practice where the soccer field is now.
Really? That's
Daily
insane.
practices were there, and we would go up, and then spring training. I remember my sophomore year, we went up to where the current practice field is, and I'll never forget, Don Shula came up to practice, and the same day Don Shula came to practice, we had a guy visiting that many of you will know. His name was Clinty Brundage. he came on a visit during that same cold February, March day that we were having spring bills. So we would bus up to the field when we would go up to the stadium to do that. So the facilities, there is no comparison to what they had then and what we had.
That's insane.
In terms of the
Yeah.
time, I will say this, and we all say the old grads say things get easier. They did not do anything to our schedule. Okay. We actually took boxing during football season.
Wow.
All the football players were in the same section. They did that to put us all in the same section. and there was no such thing as taking a class or you could take less in the summer. We
Wow.
had classes on Saturday morning. Now, obviously, the football players that dressed didn't have to go, but
Right.
that's the core. Sam, you even remember that. You went
Yes.
on Saturday morning instead of starting at 7:30, started at 6:30, and you still had your parade and doing all of that stuff. And the in the summer, again, there's a reason we're winning now. And I'm not saying we need to go back to doing those things that we did then, which did not allow. We did have football tables in the mess hall. However, we didn't have the facilities they have now where they can eat up at its stadium after. We had to come back down. And the next day, you had the same schedule that your other colleagues had in terms of an exam or WPR or whatever. And I want to tell you, it was, I'll just agree with Jonathan. It was tough. And I was a scout team player, guys. I'm putting all this in, trying to make the team ready every week. And again, I think some of the grit maybe that I have in my business career came from perhaps not having the talent that was needed. And you got to try harder, and you really try harder to do it. However, doing all that all week and not getting the glory on Saturday, you just took it. Hey, that's the way it's go. Let me play my position. What can I do to help the team get better? And guess what's so important in your civilian career? What can I do to make the team better?
True.
So well said, Herman.
And you guys, I guess on your record, I mean, not your record, but on your schedule, I was just thinking, all the things you guys had to go through in terms of adversity comparison to another D1 school. I was looking at it, and I guess you guys played Notre Dame, I believe your senior year, at Notre Dame, if I'm not
we also
mistaken.
we also played him our freshman year.
Oh, really? I wasn't aware. But I was just thinking, geez, just the fact that you guys had to
Let
do
me
all
tell
that.
you, Notre Dame, Pitt,
Yep.
Stanford, Penn State. I mean,
Yeah, Penn State.
it was real football. Wake Forest was good then.
Yeah,
UNC we played.
So I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to mention, I just from my knowledge, this might not be correct, but I guess when they upgraded Mikey Stadium, I think in the '60s, having the second deck, they started putting on Notre Dame at home, Michigan State, and yeah, I just was looking at your schedule. It's like with all the stuff go ahead.
I don't think we never played Notre Dame at home because Notre
we
Dame
didn't
do that because of the money with it. We played Notre
Yeah.
Dame. It would
Oh, boy.
be now we played them in the old Meadowlands.
Okay.
In
Yeah.
fact, we had them going. That would have been maybe my senior year, and Coach Sutton went for two because we scored right toward the end of the game, and a small defensive back from Notre Dame made the
Are you
most.
talking about
Oh, yeah,
1998 or
right.
1997?
$7 million
95.
tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
I
at that
remember
game.
that.
Yeah,
It
that
was
was in
a toss play
95.
to the right.
Ron
And
Lashinsky.
Yeah,
Ron
Yeah.
Lashinsky, tight end
We played him at
for the
West
2-point conversion.
at another stadium.
Yep.
yeah, that was yeah, that game was wild. I was a young baby, but I've watched that game on replay.
Yeah.
But I guess I have a question for Jonathan now. And thanks for all the insights, Herman. I really didn't know that about the workout facility. But Jonathan, I guess for you, when you guys had Stan Brock, if I'm not mistaken, your freshman and sophomore year, right? Because you graduated 2010, or no, you graduated 2011, but you played on the 2010 year team. So I guess it would have been Rich Ellerson's first and second year. So this is like I'm so intrigued by this. So from your perspective, when Rich Ellerson took on Army and there was so much excitement, we were going back to the triple option. It felt as if we're doing the right steps, going back to what Bob Sutton was doing in 1996, and when I think it was the last time we gone to a bowl game and we were ranked that year. What was that transition like, especially if you were recruited by another coach and then going through that process of getting a new coach and him having a whole new culture like you mentioned. And I have one other question for you after this, but I'm just intrigued to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, it was definitely a shock for all of us. Again, I was kind of recruited under a different era. So with Bobby Ross, kind of with that coaching staff.
Oh, Bobby
He
Ross.
transitioned. So all the people who went to like a prep school kind of year, like a lot of my classmates, kind of were recruited under Bobby Ross and then played under Stan Brock and then to Coach Ellerson. So it was kind of like three different coaches and coaching staffs they had touch points with. So, getting to West Point and transitioning from Sam Brock to Coach Ellerson, yeah, it was a shock because the program had been operating a certain way for the last 15 years easily, and uh, for me as a punter, not as much change for me compared to some of the other positions. So, at the end of the day, of course the fourth down punt is the fourth down punt. Change up some schemes. Kind of again, we introduced some of the rugby style type punts, which was different. I had never done that in my entire life. But
Really?
I had never ever done a rugby punt in my life. I kind of learned that with.
You played naturally though with it. Sorry, go ahead.
I tried with enough practice and repetition. Exactly.
You were one of the best in the nation. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, thanks. One of the biggest changes was just the team. We under Coach Brock, we had like over 200 people on the team. I mean, because
Really?
at West Point, you can give as many scholarships as you want. We had over 200 people on the team. Coach Ellerson came and his staff, and we, of course, changed most of the coaching staff, and we reduced the number of people on our team from over 200 to like 110, 120 maybe.
Wow.
So seeing a lot of your friends who you kind of joined with, you went through Beast Bears, went through freshman and sophomore year with, and then they're kind of all gone. A lot of them didn't make the cut. So just understanding that, like, hey, this isn't like we're not up here to play hee haw and play games. Like, we're here to work, and we need a specific batch of folks who can be competitive on first team and scout team. And just kind of change the culture in that sense, even changing the locker room design. I mean, obviously not many
I remember that.
people go into the locker room, but we changed our layout of the locker room to kind of build some cohesiveness with kind of like what we call the A team, and then kind of the B team kind of had their own sections as well. How fast we practiced. We did not practice until 8 p.m. under Coach Ellerson. We kind of finished usually around 6:30 or 7 and ate dinner, and he wanted us back down there in our rooms studying by 8 o'clock. So just very different, a lot of adjustments, but it was definitely for the better at that time. As maybe people had gotten a little complacent and comfortable, but this kind of put some fire under us to kind of act with a little more velocity and intention, and making the most out of the time that you have with your team at the stadium. So those are probably the biggest adjustments. Again, me going through learning how to rugby punt, that was a challenge, but not as much as a challenge probably for the people learning a completely new offense that they were not recruited for. A lot of people were that pro style kind of offense. Our linemen back then, when we recruited, they were 300, 320 pounds. And then Coach Ellerson, his strategy was kind of, hey, I want linemen who are 260 pounds and they can move really fast, and we can run a really fast and agile offense. So change for everyone, but again, it worked out for us, especially our senior year.
Yeah, and also I guess add to that. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, well, let's do one of our weekly updates on what's happening in the American Conference, as they have changed their name. They are the American Conference.
Sure.
And just looking at standings, if the playoffs would start now, the playoff game would be set. Navy would be playing, as they are number one in the conference, but you've got 3 teams vying to be in that game. And Sam, I know you've been following the conference activity. What do you see happening? What are some of the games coming up this weekend?
Sure. It's a pretty convoluted situation right now, and a lot has got to shake out of the woodwork in the next couple of weeks. As of right now, there are 4 teams in the American Conference with only 1 conference loss, and so they have got a weird system of being able to figure out, if everybody wins out, how they're going to figure out who plays in the conference championship game. This past week, some of the big games that were of note was North Texas remained with only one loss on the season and one loss in the conference by beating UAB 53-24. East Carolina, I think I said last week in the huddle, East Carolina is someone nobody wants to play right now. East Carolina, Memphis had East Carolina on the ropes with about 3 minutes to go in the game, actually less than that. East Carolina managed to get down the field and score a touchdown to win the game 31-27. Tulane took care of FAU to remain another one of the teams with only one loss in the conference. The head scratcher of the game of the day this past Saturday was South Florida coming into Navy on Navy's senior day. And South Florida lost this game 41-38. Coming into the game, USF was the lead. They were the front runner to be in the, not only be in the conference championship game, but to host the conference championship game, and went out and they were the front runner to get into the college football playoff. Not anymore. They're on the outside looking in, and they literally looked like they had not prepared for Navy at all, especially on defense. This coming Saturday, conference games are Charlotte is going to play at Georgia. So SEC gets a little taste of the bottom rung of the American Conference there. South Florida gets a chance to redeem itself, but they remain outside looking in. They're going to play in Birmingham at UAB. Florida Atlantic is going to play UConn, who dispatched Air Force this past Saturday 26-16. And is a very resurgent team there in the Northeast. East Carolina, again, a team that is on the hunt right now. They play in San Antonio against the team Army will play in 2 weeks, that is UTSA. Tulane is still looking to remain with one loss and have an inside track to get to the conference championship game, but they are playing a hungry team at Temple. Temple, let's remember, only requires one win to get bowl eligible. So this could be a spoiler game for Tulane. And then, of course, we have Tulsa coming off a win over Oregon State this past Saturday. They will play at Army. Army needs this win to become bowl eligible. And one note about Tulsa is the fact that they've only got 3 wins on the season. I do want to point out that 2 out of their 3 wins come against Power 4 conference teams. Tulsa beat Oklahoma State. Now they beat Pac-10 Oregon State. Never mind the fact that both of those teams are having very bad seasons, but Tulsa still has defeated 2 Power 4 teams this season in their very poor season that they're having themselves. So Navy's on bye this week. Air Force plays New Mexico at Air Force. I think the real question about Air Force that I have is whether or not we should be on a Troy Calhoun watch.
Okay. Hey, I had a chance to listen to the head coach of Tulsa, Trey Lamb, do his media conference this week. Very impressive. 36 years old, came out of East Tennessee State, and 4 years as head coach at Gardner-Webb. But the interesting thing is that he was the backup quarterback in high school to Army offensive coordinator Cody Worley. And Trey Lamb's father is a Hall of Fame coach in Georgia. And one of his family played football for Nate Woody. And so there's a lot of interesting connections. We talked with Cody Worley a little bit, and he said how, they're lifelong friends with Trey Lamb, but on Saturday they get to compete against each other. And it's going to be great to watch. But listening to Trey Lamb, I was very impressed at his approach. And I think he's going to attract players. He talked about the big tight end that he feels like he can get, he's one more year of eligibility in his approach and trying to convince him to stay for the 1 extra year at Tulsa instead of going to a bigger program. And he said 2 reasons. One, you're going to play every down at Tulsa, and they will make an aggressive financial offer to keep him there. And but I was very impressed. So that'll be an interesting part of it. Their quarterback, Baylor Hayes, is a redshirt freshman. He came with Coach Lamb from East Tennessee. State. He's throwing the ball well, 155 of 263, 10 touchdowns. Does have 5 interceptions, so Army's defense is going to be looking for that opportunity. He also runs the ball 172 yards for 3 TDs. So it's going to be an interesting opponent for Army. But again, it's bowl eligibility. It's senior day. It's going to be a big crowd here. The weather's supposed to get a little milder than it's been. It's been real cold in the New York area the last few days. Let's go to Richard. Richard, do you have a game from last week that you followed, or a key game that you're going to watch this week?
Oh, there was actually a game I followed while I was down in Fort Mill. The Oklahoma Alabama game. Number 11 Oklahoma 23-21 over number 4 Alabama. This week, by the way, the game that I will be watching will be week 12. The game that I will be obviously watching will be number 20 Tennessee taking on Florida at 7:30. Number 1 Ohio State and Rutgers, that will be at 12 noon. And also, number 9 Notre Dame taking on Syracuse 3:30.
Yeah, hey, that's great, Richard. Appreciate it. Mentioned Ohio State. I was at a dinner last week with their president, Admiral Ted Carter, the former superintendent of the Naval Academy, also the former superintendent of the Naval War College. What an impressive individual. He talked about being a Top Gun fighter pilot.
Yeah, and he was also former president of the University of Nebraska. So,
just amazing career. And he talked about when you want a drone versus when you want to have a manned fighter pilot. When you're attacking a bridge, as he did in the Kosovo War, and 6 seconds before they were going to launch their ordnance and blow up this bridge, he sees the bridge visually, sees it's full of civilians, or was a traffic jam that they didn't expect, and he pulled up the mission. And that's the difference of a manned fighter pilot and the perspective of someone like Admiral Carter in that situation as a fighter pilot, and certainly he's doing a great job leading one of the largest universities in the country at Ohio State. Well, we're so glad to have Herman Bowles and Jonathan Bowles with us tonight. Let's see, Jonathan, is there anyone have a last question as we get close to wrapping up?
I don't know if it's okay if I can ask this to Jonathan, but as it relates to the change, I know Rich Ellison was there for another 2 years after you graduated, or maybe 3 years. But seeing if you have any contacts that were at Army when Jeff Monken took over, when you see the change in the size of the players, it looks like the offensive line has gotten bigger since Rich Ellison. What from what you've heard or what you've seen, like, what is changed the most between Rich Ellison and Jeff Monken? I know that they don't both run the triple option, or at least his first year they kind of did, but it just seemed as if the culture of the team just drastically changed in so many different regards. And I don't know if you have any insights on it, but I was just curious if you did, Jonathan.
Yeah, I mean, I've really only kind of heard secondhand. Obviously, I've never been, at a practice there. I've just heard, the intensity's kind of picked up and a little bit more deliberate in how they spend their time, and certain morning practice. I know they did some morning practices. I think that's maybe in the spring. That's not something that we did historically. So working out in the morning, treatment and film in the afternoon, and I've also just heard he's a little more intense and kind of gets after the guys at times, which is okay, which is good. It's football, so. That's what I've heard change the most. Of course, Monken's had a couple of great recruits come in. Especially I'm thinking of Daly, our quarterback for the last couple of years, who graduated last season. I mean, he was just phenomenal. He should have been the Heisman running and been strongly considered. He was just out of this world, one of the best quarterbacks, possibly Army's ever had. Definitely in the conversation. So, and also, scheming, I think, is a little bit different in how we run that option. And, I don't know all the other nuances of what's going on behind the curtains there now, because I'm definitely more of a spectator and a fan. And I'm not, the older you get, kind of the less you don't know players anymore. Like I kind of know what happened, a year or two after I graduated, 3 because those guys are my friends. I talk to them all the time. But after that, you kind of lose touch with what's kind of going on behind the scenes. So it's that was kind of sad to see as you like, oh, I'm getting older. I don't know as many people, and you're less connected, but you still just become more of a fan. But yeah, that's really all I know. I've heard other rumors and stuff, but no idea what's true or not. But I think regardless, it's all for the better. Monken's most likely going to go down in history for sure at West Point, and for kind of building this winning program, some of these epic seasons, especially that 12-win season we had last year. And hopefully another bowl game this year. I think we still have a strong chance. So we'll see that and beating Navy too be a really great accomplishment this year. And maybe we can still get this, 7-8 wins this year. So we'll see.
Thank you.
Okay, Jonathan, that's great. Thank you. And let's wrap up. And Herman Bull, so good to have you join us tonight. And you've been so gracious personally to me, and had an amazing career from West Point to service in the Army to your corporate accomplishments, and you're revered as a knowledgeable corporate board member, and how boards should approach their work. I still would love to go back to the topic of your perspective on what you think the NCAA should, might do on trying to keep college football from just becoming another version of the NFL. So any closing thought for us tonight?
Yeah, well, the first thing, I'm so happy that they took the portal and made it one portal instead of two. That was just chaos.
Right. Yep.
So that's certainly a good move. And I want to continue to focus, as I do with all the young people that I mentor. For example, I gave the speech down at Alabama last week, and I have 20 kids that have followed up wanting to, get an office call and do all of this stuff. The point I'm making there, Ken, is development of the young men who are playing college football. And a lot of coaches say it, and I know their job depends on certain things, and they may make certain decisions. However, the NCAA needs to take the view that we need to do what's in the best long-term interests of these young men who are student athletes, who are putting a multi-billion-dollar product on the field every Saturday and some Thursday and Friday nights. So focus on the education, focus on lifelong learning. So proud that Jonathan again talked to this kid earlier this week, just in terms of his general idea of what does he want to do when he graduates. We've got to, and let me tell you what it comes down to, Ken. It comes down to leadership. Leaders inspire people. We need to inspire people for a lifelong of service, we say in the military, a lifelong view of success. That's what we want to do.
Well, Herman, that's well said, and just such a wonderful perspective to offer, and you're doing great work mentoring students, as you said. Really, thank you for all the graciousness that you've extended to me, and for joining us tonight. And Jonathan, great to see you got 2 children now, and at one of the great companies in the world, in Microsoft, and I still remember your punts at Yankee Stadium against Notre Dame.
Hopefully you don't remember that first one. I'll never forget it. Hopefully no one else remembers.
Well, Ken, before we go to, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about who I think is one of Army's biggest fans, almost as much as Curtis, and that's Jonathan's brother, Nathaniel. He bleeds black and gold and Army, even though he did not go there. Obviously, everybody in the family was in the military. However, he just loves Army, was a phenomenal supporter of Jonathan then. He watches every one of our games now, and just really pulls for us emotionally. He gets more emotionally involved sometimes than any of us. So he's an Army fan. I wanted to give Nathaniel a shout out. Jonathan,
He was a pleasure to meet.
Yeah, no doubt. It
probably has more personality than anybody in the Bulls. So
Yeah.
Okay, well,
And
uh,
Ken, make sure that we give the opportunity for Herman and Jonathan to join us in that lightning round.
yeah, let's do the lightning round. We're almost on overtime. But why don't we go around real quick and get everybody's prediction on the Army Tulsa game Saturday. Okay, Richard, why don't you lead off?
Oh, let's see. Army Tulsa. I'm gonna go Army 31, Tulsa 17.
17. Okay, you see a pretty strong win. Okay, and let's see. Let's go to Curtis.
I'm going with Army 31, Tulsa 14 with an 85% chance of us winning.
Okay. Okay. And let's go to Sam Houston.
Yeah, this is senior day. Army's needing one win. Army has been gaining a lot of momentum and are doing very well after the pretty much very disappointing start that the season got off to. I did notice an announcement from Coach Monken today that Hayden Reed is going to be moved from B back over to slot back. So I'm sure that that's because of the production of the B back, with Jake Rendina, Carson Smith, and Briggs Bartosh that is moving Hayden. But I like that move because it puts a much larger guy over at the B back position, and Hayden has some pretty good speed to him. This is an important moment for me. I'm going to make my score prediction. I just want to say, as I said last week in the huddle, my biggest concern right now of Army that they got to make the greatest strides of improvement with, especially in these last three games, is they have got to start finishing drives with touchdowns and putting points on the board. Time of possession is one thing, but time of possession when the other team is only one score out, when you're 2 minutes left in the game, that's another thing. And we don't want to be in that position with Tulsa. We don't want to be in that position with UTSA. And we damn sure don't want to be in that position with Navy. So I think that part of this Hayden Reed move, and this is why I mentioned it, is part of a setup of a diversity of the offensive play calling that is going to result in a little bit more of an explosive output of points for Army this Saturday, and important of things to come for the last three games. So here's my prediction. I'm predicting Army 38. I'm predicting Army 38, Tulsa 14.
Okay, Sam thinks another touchdown for Army. Well, let's go to our guest, Jonathan. What's your prediction for Army versus Tulsa on Saturday?
Yeah. The funniest thing, Army, they're probably like 5 plays away from being, like 8-1, like a one-loss team, honestly, this year. So we've had some pretty heartbreaking losses. So I think we're a really solid team, and I think we're going to win this weekend at home, coming off a bye weekend. I think it's going to be 28-17.
28-17. Okay. Well, 4-touchdown day for the Black Knights. And Herman, what's your thought on Army versus Tulsa on Saturday?
27-13, Army wins.
All right.
27-13. Okay. And let's go to Stephanie.
So I think it is going to be 35-14. And we also had a YouTube live person chime in saying she thinks it's going to be Army 20 and Tulsa 7.
27. Okay, 1 touchdown. Okay. And I think my thought is Army's been running the ball. They've got to I think they want to avoid running Cale Helms 35 times. He's taking some wear and tear with that. He got a little time off. I watched him in practice today, and I think they want to try. They want to. We said the same thing last year about Bryson Daly, but I think they're going to try to get the ball to a couple of the other running backs. But they've been managing the ball well. They haven't had a fumble or a interception in a bunch of games, and the defense is playing well. talked a little bit with Coach Munkin today about the season Anna Thomas is having and Caleb Fordner on the inside. And so I think it's going to be interesting. I will go with, I think Army's going to get a couple of field goals. I'll go for 27-10. And so we're all picking the Black Knights on Saturday. Senior Day at Mikey Stadium. You're listening. I suggest getting there early, as the presentation to the seniors will start at 11:30, maybe even a little bit sooner, with a 12 o'clock kick. Hopefully we got the West Point band back. Hopefully we got the flyover back. I got to check on that. Now that the government's back open, that had caused some limitations on what they could do. So we'll have fun. I just want to thank everybody for participating. We got Richard Miller down in Florida. Thank you, Richard.
My pleasure, Ken. Thank you.
From New York City, we got Curtis Harris. Curtis, thank you.
Thanks for having me, as always.
Thank you. And we have in the Beat Navy studio in Huntsville, Alabama, we've got Colonel Sam Houston from class of '87. Thank you, Colonel.
Absolutely. Looking forward to Army punching its ticket to a bowl game this Saturday, and looking forward to Army completing its ultimate goal of the season, which they're in the driver's seat to do, and that is the CIC trophy. And I'll be ready to call up the Army Athletic Office on those tickets for the bowl game after this Saturday.
Okay, and we'll look to see what bowl game representatives in their blazers are in the press box on Saturday. I imagine there'll be a few, but I know the conference has a lot to say on which bowl game Army may play in. And I want to thank our two guests, Jonathan Bowles. Thank you, Jonathan. Great to see you. And hear about all the things you're doing and your two children. That's great. Well, I hope to have you join us again.
Absolutely.
And,
Thank you so much, Ken and
our
team.
friend, longtime friend from that day on an August practice, I met Herman Bowles about 15 years ago. Maybe been a little more than that. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all you've done for our country, and both of you as veterans, thank you for your service to our country. Great to see you. And Herman, thank you for taking time to join us tonight.
Well, Ken, I'd like to just really thank you, Sam, Richard, Curtis, and staff for doing this. You guys do it out of your love for Army. And, I definitely see your stuff on Facebook. So whatever you're doing, you're getting to the top of my view list. And I just appreciate everything that all of you do to support Army and the athletics, because, I was at Alabama, as I said, they have machines that do what you guys do, and people get paid to do it. You guys are doing it for your love of Army, and it makes a difference to the parents. It makes a difference to the players. It also makes a difference to the fans. So thank you very much for what you do.
I appreciate that. I always say covering Army football is the best thing I ever got involved with. So, and we got to thank Stephanie out of Minnesota. Thank you for putting this together, getting us on the air, getting our recording. And thank you so much, Stephanie.
Yep, no problem. I am glad to be a part of it.
Okay, let's break. And it's Ken Kraetzer for CamVetsMedia. We cover cadets, midshipmen, and the military veterans proudly since 2008. We will see you out at Mikey Stadium on Saturday, 12 noon kick. And you can watch nationally on the CBS Sports Network. But we hope you'll be out here. It should be a great day of college football at West Point. So thanks again for watching. Thanks for everybody joining us. Have a good evening.
Go Army. Beat Tulsa.
Go Army.
Tulsa.
For me.
Okay.
Also, not to sound
we,
crazy. Oh, God.
My computer's going nuts.
Okay, we're off the air.